Greetings! In this tutorial we are going to be looking at how we can control the speed of everything in our Infinite Runner, so let's get into it. So today we are going to be creating only one new script, so right click in your assets folder, go to create, and go to C# script. We're going to call it Speed Manager. Once the script has been created, double click on it and we're going to populate it with some code. So our speed manager is going to be a singleton, and basically in Unity a singleton ensures that a class has only one instance and provides a global point of access to that instance. This is great for managing game components that only need one manager, for example an audio manager. But in this case it's going to be a speed manager, which will control the speed of everything in the game. Now, for now we only have boxes, but when we add more components, you'll see why this is so useful. So we do public static speed manager instance get : private set. And basically the get here is how we can access this instance and the set is how we can set the instance. And you'll see how we use these in a second. But before we do that, we need to define some variables. We need to do public float speed equals 1f. That's going to be our current speed. Public float speed increment 0.01f. This is going to be how much do we increase the speed by when we do increase the speed. Public float time interval equals 1f. How long do we wait before we increase the speed? So with this setup that we have with these three variables, we will increase the speed by 0.1f every 1 second. Last increment time is a float and it's private, and it's going to be the last time we incremented the speed, and private float initial speed is the initial starting speed. You'll see where we use the last increment time in a moment. Now go to the top of your code and import using unity.scene management. We'll be needing this in a moment. So we have replaced our start function with an awake function. So let's break down what's going on. So we're going to do private void awake, and we're going to do if instance double equals null. If it's equal to null, instance equals this, don't destroy onload game object. So we're going to be checking if our static speed manager instance is equal to null. If it is, that means we don't have a speed manager. So we're going to do instance equals this, meaning this speed manager we've got here is going to be set to the static speed manager, meaning we can access this anywhere in our code, so any object can get access to the speed. And then we're going to do don't destroy on load game object. Basically this means this game object will not be destroyed if we load a different scene. Because normally game objects are destroyed when you go between a different scene, and all the game objects in the other scene are loaded, while in this case we keep this game object and carry it over to the next scene. For the else statement, it means we've already got a speed manager, we're going to destroy this current speed manager that's just been created because we've already got one in our instance. And then we can do speed equals initial speed, and last increment equals time.time. Again, you'll see why in a moment we're going to do the last increment time variable. So, in our update function, we're going to do if time.time minus last incremented time is greater than or equal to time interval. Speed plus equals speed increment, last incremented time equals time.time. So basically, this update function is used to regularly increase the value of speed at intervals of time interval seconds. So in my case, we're going to increase the speed by 0.1 every 1 second. And basically what we're going to do is, we're going to check how much time has passed since our last increment. And if the time passed is greater than our time interval, which is 1 second, we're going to increase the speed. Which is why we need to store the current time we last increased our speed, because then we can subtract that from the current time to get how long it's been since we last increased our speed, and if it's been greater than 1 second, we increase the speed. Now we've got 2 more functions. Don't worry, we've nearly finished all the code we'll do in this tutorial. So we're going to be doing private void on scene loaded, scene loaded scene mode. And we're just going to do speed equals initial speed. Basically, whenever we load a scene, we're going to call this line of code. Basically, whenever we load a new scene, we're going to reset the speed to the initial speed. Because let's say we die and restart the scene, we want the speed to go back to the initial speed. And you might be thinking, but Max, we're doing that in the awake. And you're correct. However, the awake function will only be executed once, when this game object is awoken, basically. And that doesn't occur every time we load a new scene. It only occurs once for this game object, so we need to basically have something in place to reset the speed when we load a new scene, which is what we do here. You do not need to worry about these parameters, we won't be using them for this onSceneLoaded function. And then we've also then got a private void on destroy, and we're going to do scenemanager.sceneLoaded minus equals onSceneLoaded. You might be thinking, Max, what are we doing here? Well, basically, this is an event that Unity calls when a scene has been loaded, and minus equals onSceneLoaded means basically, when this event occurs, we don't want to try and call this function on this class. Think of it as unsubscribing from an email newsletter. Basically, you don't want to continue getting emails from that newsletter. And you might be thinking, okay Max, you're unsubscribing from it, but don't you need to subscribe to it first? And you're correct. Go back to your awake function, put in this one line of code, which is scenemanager.sceneLoaded plus equals onSceneLoaded. Basically, we're going to be subscribing to the SceneLoaded event. Think of it as like subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you subscribe, you will be notified whenever I upload, so you should totally do that. In the case of this Unity game, we are subscribing to the SceneLoaded event, meaning whenever the SceneLoaded event occurs, so whenever a scene is loaded, this game object will be told, and then we will execute this onSceneLoaded function we created here, and then reset the speed. Was that a shameless plug to subscribe to my channel? Yes. Was it really good and tied into the programming you're learning? Also yes, so you should subscribe because of that. Now let's actually use that speed. So go to your enemy box script, and we're going to replace this line of code here to include speedmanager.instance.speed. So we're going to be doing transform.position plus equals vector3.left times speedmanager.instance.speed times time.delta time. So basically we're going to be multiplying our speed into the speed calculation for our enemy box. And we're using a singleton setup because it's super easy to get access to the speed at any time. We don't need to have any other references that we need to drag and drop or use GameObject.find to get. We just have a singleton responsible for the speed of the game, and anything that wants the speed variable can get access to it. And that's actually all of the code for this tutorial, so save your work and let's go back to Unity. We need to right click in our hierarchy and go to create empty. Call this speed manager. And then you're going to click on this empty game object and you're going to drag and drop your speed manager script onto it. So to demonstrate in a moment, we're going to set the speed increment to be 2. No, to be 1. So basically, things are going to get faster really quickly. You probably don't want this for your actual game, but hey, this is a video. So we're going to then hit the play button. As you can see, everything is getting quicker. And you might be thinking, Max, this does look a bit weird. And you would be correct. It's going very quickly. So we're going to set the speed increment to be 0.0. Now we'll do 0.1. And this is going to look more normal because what you saw before didn't look normal. But as you can see, things are going pretty smoothly. And you might be thinking, but Max, these aren't spawning in a good place, and you'd be correct. So what are we going to do? Well, go to your spawn E object, then go to the scene view, click on these little arrows and just move it to be something like that. So they now spawn off screen. Now let's hit play again, it'll look more natural. I'd like to say the smaller your speed increment, the smoother the speed increases will look, but as you can see, these are clearly getting faster over time. We're not going to be increasing the spawn rates just yet because that's going to be linked to something else, which you'll see in a future tutorial. But look, the game is getting progressively harder. So, thanks for being a great audience, be sure to leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more tutorials. Part 4 will be coming out soon.